This is Alexa Linton, and you're listening to the Whole Horse Podcast. I'm coming to you from the Cowichan Valley on beautiful Vancouver Island in Canada, and I'm excited to be bringing amazing instructors from around the world to share their knowledge about all the ways that we can keep ourselves and our horses well and happy, and about some of the cutting edge techniques, training, and different aspects that are coming into the horse industry and changing it from within. I'm so excited you're here, and I'm excited about the times that we live in and the shifts that are happening in the horse industry before our eyes. Let's get started. Hey everyone, it's Alexa Linton here, and you're on the Whole Horse Podcast. Today on the podcast, I recently returned from Australia and found so many amazing horse people there. Today we're chatting with one of them. Her company name is Bitless, with every bit of control, and I saw her at a clinic when I was out in Canberra and was totally mesmerized. Her name is Tori Jeffress, and I'm really excited to welcome you here, Tori. Thanks for being on today.
Thanks, Alexa. Thanks for having me on today. It's a pleasure.
Yay. It's Tori's first podcast. So very excited to be sharing you with the world here and all the great work you're doing with horses. Can you, Tori, just give us a little bit about yourself, your journey with horses, and getting a little bit into how, what prompted you to go bitless with your horses?
Sure. So I got my first pony when I was 2 years old, and I remember Mum letting me off the lead, and it took off, it didn't go very fast, took off in a full walk down the driveway, and that was it. I thought, no, I never want to ride again, just not having the control, that scared me. So when we moved to Manildra to the farm, I was 7, and Mum thought, she hasn't been on your horse since she was 2, so we may as well give it to the neighbours. So my mum gave my little pony to the neighbours, and I just thought she was the worst person in the world. And ever since that day she gave my pony away, all I wanted to do was ride. Obviously, for a little while it took a bit of convincing, because Mum thought, no, you've had a horse in the paddock for 5 years and you haven't wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent probably a year with my head buried in horse books, just nagging. And eventually one of Mum's friends, Dan Simmons, he's a lovely fella, but he is quite wild. He said, no problem, Tors. He said, I'll bring you back a pony from Brewarrina. So Brewarrina out here is it's out in the west. And he had horses, probably 50 to 100 in a paddock. And he would go out there and he'd just choose one of the ponies and he'd bring it home. And I think we went through 4 ponies, and I spent more space in the dirt than what I did on them. Before he actually brought home one that was half decent. So yeah, I spent a few years doing pony club and all that sort of stuff, and then I went out eventing, and I went working for Natalie Blundell when I was 16. I left school, and that was great. I went through to pre-novice level eventing with her, and then my horse, Happy Vegemite, at the time, we had a big flip over one of the cross-country jumps. Yeah, that was the end of me. I thought, I can't do this. I'm not brave enough. So I decided to take up dressage. And that's where Rocco and my journey started together. So in December 2012, I went to Queensland to try 6 horses, and Rocco was one of them. And I remember at the end, there were 2 that I really liked. There was Rocco and a big black mare, and she was gorgeous. And I said to Mum, oh, Mum, I like Rocco, but I really like this mare. And because I'm only little, Mum said, no, Rocco was quite small at the time. He was only 15. Let's get the little one, she said. I think it'd be safer. So yeah, we ventured home with the little one, and he grew to be over 16 too.
Well, I was going to say, he's not that little.
Oh, he's not that little at all. Yeah, when my journey with him started. So at the start, I hadn't had him home for long at all. And when we saw him in Queensland, he had the massive big trot, massive big canter, and he was quite tight in his frame. And for a 3-year-old, he had been worked quite hard. So I had all sorts of soundness issues with him. That horse has spent more time at the vet, I swear, than what I have had hot dinners. He's had nerve blocks, he's had ultrasounds, he's had x-rays, and none of the vets could really work out what was wrong with him. And that was when I met Jose Mendez. And yeah, Jose said to me, I know what's wrong with this horse. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, do you want to know? And I thought, well, of course I want to know. And he said to me, what's wrong with this horse is you. And obviously, you know, being a rider, I thought, oh, that's not very nice. So, well, it's you, but it's how you're riding him. I thought, oh, okay. And I thought I'd take Rocco there and I'd just try his classical principles and see how it went. And I remember in the first lesson with him, he said to me, if this is going to work, you're going to have to keep your mind wide open. And that's what I did. So for the first months and months, we had Rocco just on a loose rein, pottering around. And I felt like a bit of a cowboy, really, like on the end of the buckle, just trotting around pointlessly. And it felt like I'd gone back so many steps. But looking back now, that's exactly what we needed to do. He wasn't balanced and he wasn't confident in his work. And by back, the soundness issues, they started to go away, which was great. And then lately, obviously, last year, I think it was August, I found Belinda. And I've attended 2 clinics with her now, with the next one to be in, I think it's next month, actually, in March. And I found her, like, great. She's fantastic.
Yes, she was quite amazing. And for those who don't know Belinda, it's Belinda, blanking on her last name.
Bolsenbroek.
Bolsenbroek. Okay, yeah. She was quite impressive. I got a chance to audit her clinic for the 2 days and saw you the very first moment I walked in. I was like, whoa. Yeah, that's great. So tell me a little bit about that journey. So what was the transition with Jose from, you know, kind of on the buckle to what I saw in the clinic, which was Tori was riding completely bareback with now is it called a cordero or a neck rope? What are they called?
Yeah, I just called it a neck rope. I think
neck rope. Okay.
A cord or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that actually started in, to be like the 3rd or 4th lesson I had with Jose. He said to me, why don't you, don't follow the crowd, do something different. And it got me thinking, I don't think he really meant go out and ride your horse bareback and bridleless. But I thought, you know, I'll experiment. I just started doing it home in between riding him with the bridle. Like, I'd take it off at the end of the session. And, I wouldn't take the bridle off to start with. How it started was I put the neck rope on and I'd give him the aids from the neck rope and also from the reins.
Yeah.
It took him a little while to get it. And it started with we'd do straight lines with the neck rope. And then when he got that, we'd add in the corners and then the circles. And it probably took him, he's a pretty slow learner sometimes, about 6 months to get to the stage where he was going with just the neck rope as what he was with the bridle, I guess, on that. And then from there, it took another 6 months to get his canter because his canter is so big anyway. And yeah, when he got it, I suppose we haven't looked back. It's been it would have been 5 years now. I haven't ridden him with a saddle or bridle.
Wow.
And it is so much easier to saddle up.
No kidding. I'm just going to put my neck rope on. Done.
I was at the last clinic there and Sheridan came out and she said, okay, Tori, get ready. And I said, it won't take me long. I just put the neck on and in I came, which was great.
That's amazing. So with him, does he lead with the neck rope? I mean, I think for a lot of people out there, it feels like a big leap to go from, you know, a bit and a bridle and all these kind of gadgets and gadgets and you know, to essentially naked except for this rope around the neck. Would you be willing to kind of take us a little? I'm absolutely curious. It made me very inspired to come home and try this out with my mare. because I've been doing a little bit of bridleless, but I haven't actually taken her bridle off yet. I've just kind of laid the reins down and kind of worked with signal on her neck.
Yep.
So this is like, oh yes, I want to do this now. So yeah, would you be willing to kind of share like a little bit of your process in a bit more detail of kind of how you got, because what I was seeing at that clinic was you were working in collection, he was carrying himself beautifully, you were doing travers and like these amazing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I started with him in the round yard, like when I first took the neck rope off, the bridle off, sorry, and put the neck rope on, because obviously, you know, I hadn't done it before either, and I didn't really know what it was going to do. So the first time I took it off, I did do it in the round yard, and I did it in the round yard for a little while. Obviously, you know, he didn't always listen, so when he didn't listen, he was just going in circles, pretty much.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't listening for an extended period of time, I'd put back on just even a headstall with a rope on both sides, just so I could reinforce, no, come on, the pressure on the rope means to go this way. And eventually he got the idea, and I didn't need the headstall so much, and we ventured from the round yard to then the arena and did the same sort of thing in the arena, and it just became less and less and less that I would need to put the headstall on.
Yep.
Neck rope. And yeah, I suppose 5 years later now, I can ride him. I don't ride him down the paddock as such because he's a bit of a rat bag anyway, but I can go and ride him out, and the arena at home is completely open, so it's not fenced at all. There's sheep on both sides of it, cows and whatever else, and he's pretty good. Occasionally he is a little bit sneaky. Like I took him to Kidal, one of the local arenas, the other day, and he loves grass. He's like a little pony. And that's all he thinks about. So we're riding around, and he all of a sudden slams on the brakes. Tiniest little bit of grass on the side of the arena. And then he ride again, and he keeps going.
That would be, you know, interesting even with a saddle and bridle on, but I'm sure when you're bareback and you're having him slam on the brakes, it's without expecting it, it could be even more interesting.
Yeah. And I guess we're just really good friends too. Like I've had him for a fair while now, and I know some days he's an absolute rat bag, and you go out there in the paddock and I can tell he's going to be horrible to ride, so I don't even worry about it. Yeah. And then there's other days when he's that good that I just put my students on him with the neck rope as well, and I know he's just going to poke around for them and walk and give them the experience and behave himself.
That's awesome. And so what, with your training, how many times a week do you try to ride, or do you have a schedule, or just see how he's doing?
Well, I work on a farm as well, so I don't really have a schedule. I'm one of the most disorganized people you've probably ever met. I try and ride him. He's actually in rehab at the moment because he had a ligament injury from carrying on in the stable. I have no idea what he did. But when he is in work, I try and ride him sort of 5 days a week. Some days he might only get 3. And I don't ride him for a long time. Like if I take him out and he's good for 15, 20 minutes, I'll pack him up and put him away. I wasn't real keen on ground work, I guess, because like a lot of people, I found it boring before I met Belinda. But since meeting Belinda, I've been doing a lot more ground work. So some days I'll go out and I won't ride him at all. I'll just do like a dressage on the ground. Essentially, I'll do his travers, his shoulder in, little bits of half pass, and lunge him, and even join up and liberty just on the ground.
Perfect. And do you do that also in a neck rope, or do you do that in a cavesson, or?
Yeah, so I do that in a cavesson.
Yeah. Great.
I found he's a lot better behaved when I'm on him than on the ground. He seems to find the groundwork quite boring. And Belinda pointed out to me last clinic, you probably would have seen it, he's really annoying on the ground. Like he's in your face, he's trying to lick you, he's trying to nip you. Not nasty, but just annoying, I guess. And she is actually the weaknesses in his body. Like he was having trouble doing the travers and the shoulder in, and that's why he was getting a bit antsy about it. And I think, that's a lot of the problem with riders these days. I find I teach a lot of kids, and it starts at Pony Club. There's just a lack of education on the biomechanics of the horse, their bones, their muscles, and how it all fits together and works.
Yep.
So a lot of students, they ride in bitless bridles, and a lot of them would like to do it at Pony Club, but EA and Pony Club rules, you mentioned riding without a bit and they think you're nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these kids aren't actually allowed to do that. And the same at Pony Club, kids will run into trouble with their horses. And not only Pony Club, out in the open EA events, adult riding club, you'll run into trouble with your horse misbehaving. And instead of thinking that maybe there's a weakness there, they immediately think, oh no, we need a bigger bit, or we need a tight nose bit, put rings on, which I do disagree with. I find that if you take the time in getting the horse confident and balanced in its work, it does tend to eliminate that unwillingness.
Yes, that's what I've seen as well, for sure. And as a equine body worker, I rarely see a horse that's not, asymmetrical or imbalanced in some way and needing support and to become more symmetrical. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was actually a case there. I had a horse at home for one of my students. She was just trialing it, and he just hated being ridden with a bit. He used to toss his head all the time, and I just thought, I'll try, even though they don't allow it at Pony Club, I'll try and bitless and just see how he goes. And he changed immediately. He had his teeth done, but he just preferred to have the head still, I guess. And I rode him like that for a good few months, and because he was only young, I was going to take him out for my student to the first few events, and then she'd take over. And I actually entered him in a dressage competition, and I said to them, can I ride him in the bitless bridle? I know I can't compete, but can we do it uncompetitively? And the lady actually wrote back to me in the email from EA and said, no, we don't believe that you can get a horse to collect properly, to engage and be in control with the bit. So I guess with Rocco too, my point with him being bridleless is in somewhat to prove them wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually just reading a post today, and it said that in horses that are being ridden bitless, there's a research study done where horses that have a bit show 23 signs of stress and pain in their face, like clenching, ears back, tail swishing, these sorts of things. So they had sort of registered all these different ways that a horse expresses that there's something uncomfortable. And they were saying that horses with a bit were expressing on average about 23, and horses without were expressing about 2.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
It's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do find people in Belinda's clinics, obviously they're educated. So, the problem with the bit isn't really there, but with kids and adults at Pony Club and adult riding club that haven't had the education, they run into problems. They don't really know how to fix it.
Yeah, for sure. And so for you, when you got into, did you go from having a bit to riding in a cavesson, or was there another transition that you did for all those out there that might be looking to transition out of wearing a bit? What was the sort of safest way that you found for everybody concerned?
Look, a lot of my students too, I have bitless bridles made overseas, and they just go straight from having their bridle with the bit to having the bitless bridle. There are a few horses that don't take to it straight away, and they're the ones that we just muck around with in the round yard or the fenced arena to start with. And obviously the pressure's different, and just get them turning and stopping, and they usually take to it pretty quickly. And then I've had others that you put the bitless bridle straight on, and straight away they're fine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I haven't ridden my mare in a bit in about 10 years now. Yeah. And I ride in a hack more. She loves it. I can't imagine putting a bit in. I mean, I ride in vaquero style at times. So she'll sometimes carry a spade bit, but it's very much a carrying situation. It doesn't get used. It's like a decoration. But that's very rare. But it also, I've found that the biomechanics of getting her prepared to carry that so that you don't actually have to use it at that point.
Yeah.
You know, and I saw that at Belinda's clinic as well, where, bits were used, but very much not used in the same regard, or used very well, I guess I should say.
Yeah, because the horses are balanced, and obviously she doesn't use the bits to create the movements and the collection. She trains the horse's body instead.
Yeah, so there was something she said. Do you remember what she was saying about the what happens from the hands? She probably has talked to you about that a lot. What the body does and kind of what the hands do. Because I think that would be really nice to sort of create that visual for the listeners.
Yeah. I don't think I can actually remember.
Sorry. I know. I'm trying to recall. I'm like, what did she say? It was a great piece of wisdom, but that essentially, you're not using, like you were just saying, you're not using the bit in the way that many riders have. I was trained very, what do we call it? Very traditionally English, where in a lot of ways I was balancing on my hands.
Yeah.
Using my hands in a very, strong, sort of over-involved way, shall we call it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And don't know any different. They just think that's the normal.
Absolutely. So I'd love to chat with you, Tori, because what I was seeing in the clinic was that your Rocco was beautifully collected.
Yep.
No, like nothing on his head. So can you share a little bit about that? What is the process that you use to help him to find that balance in his body? Because he was carrying himself so beautifully.
Yeah. Well, I guess to start with, because I hadn't done that Bridleless thing before, I didn't really know how I was going to ask him. It was a little bit of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
But everything with horses, it was just a matter of pressure and release. So I found if I put a little bit more pressure on the neck rope, he would actually drop his neck. And then I'd reward that and just do little steps. So, he'd drop his neck for a few seconds, give him a big pat, good boy, leave it alone for a little while, and then ask him again. And the more and more I progressed with his training, I guess the more and more he was able to hold the frame.
Yeah.
And obviously Ben too, getting him to do the shoulder ins, the travers, they all helped to get him to come into a frame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it looked like there was some things that you were doing with your body as well to, with your upper leg, with your lower leg, to really help him find that balance and sort of move his shoulders in the right way, move his ribs the right way. Can you share a little bit about that?
I guess every rider has a symmetry, like every horse.
Mm-hmm.
Belinda makes it really obvious for me. Like sometimes I might put too much weight on my right hip or drop my left shoulder, and that affects my horse heaps more than what you'd think it would. Like I only have to drop my left shoulder and he's off balance. And being bareback too, he can feel me a lot more than what he could with the saddle on.
Absolutely.
Even the slightest unbalance of my bar causes him to become unbalanced. So when I first started riding him bareback, because he has quite a big trot, I found it so hard to actually sit on him. So everything was really quite slow to start with. And as time's gone on, I've gotten more and more used to it and been able to balance myself more. But I feel like there's still a long way to go before myself I'm 100%, or no one will ever be 100%, but before I can get to where I feel like, where I want to be with my balance with him, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I am, the more he is. So if I sit my body up straight, then he's more likely to come into a frame and perform the movements correctly.
Yes, absolutely. And I really saw that where it was like so reflective in the horse, as you moved your shoulder and your rib cage on one side, he was able to kind of lift and find more balance. There was this real reflection between horse and rider. And like you say, with being bareback, it's so much more subtle and feely and, yeah. Do you notice that it's like very,
very
I
much
do.
a reflection.
Even the slightest movement of him maybe even step to the left really puts me off. Like
Yeah.
my whole, oh, and then we get back in balance and we're right again. But yeah, it does. You really do notice that lack of balance at times, I guess.
Absolutely. But it must feel amazing when you get there, hey?
Yeah, it does. It does. And doing it with him is great too, because he's just such a dude. Like in the paddock and all that sort of stuff, he's always been such a rat bag. Like I go into clean his stable and he's the type of horse that I'm trying to clean it and he's trying to grab hold of the rake. So,
Yeah,
and the jolly balls, I don't know if you have jolly balls over
we
there.
do. Yeah.
I went to Horseland and got a few, and they told me that they were the tough ones. They were indestructible. So far he has been through, I think, 4 of the indestructible jolly balls. He just
That's impressive.
and bites them.
Oh my gosh. So he would be what we call an extrovert then.
Yeah. Bag.
That's funny. It sounds like you got the right horse out of the paddock.
Yeah, I think so too. My mum sometimes says that he reflects my personality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm that naughty, but he's definitely
Well, maybe in different ways. It sounds like you're both really adventurous and like trying new things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's
very
awesome.
which makes him, I suppose, in a way, really quite easy to ride. Because when I do things wrong, he tells me, and he doesn't tell me discreetly. Like he really tells me. He might even turn around and bite my foot sometimes.
I can see that actually. Yeah.
And it's the same, like when I'm brushing him, he loves being scratched on his bottom. And he's fine, he makes these funny faces with his lips when he's enjoying it. And then all of a sudden I might hit the wrong spot. And that's it. Like turns around, teeth out, don't touch that, he says.
Uh-huh. He's very, very expressive. Oh, that's really sweet. So tell me a little bit, Tori. So it sounds like you've got, business going, you're helping other people with this.
Yeah.
I love the name you came up with. So Bitless, with every bit of control. That's awesome. Yeah, tell me a little bit about, what's happening with your business and what you're seeing with your students.
Sure. So I probably teach roughly 10 kids a week, from the ages of about 7 up until 16, 17. And there's a few of the parents too of the kids that haven't ridden before that just go, oh, I might like to learn how to ride, and they come in and have a lesson on their kids' horses. But a lot of these kids, I guess because they're a lot more easy to convince to do things, they're trying Bitless. I've even got 2 students, I think, that have started Bridleless, and I teach them mornings and afternoons, obviously, after school. We do a little bit of well. And I've got 2 older girls, Henrietta, there's 3 actually, Henrietta, Abby, and Grace McBeath, and they're all getting into the classical style of riding. They want to come to Belinda's clinics. They're actually coming to one with Lucy Klassen next month.
Oh, fantastic. I just had lunch with Lucy the other day before I left Australia.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. She's fabulous. Yeah.
And it's how other people do things too. Like, I think you get something from everybody.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. That's really exciting. I mean, I'm such a big promoter of, the ripple effect, and it sounds like you're really having that impact on these young people, and that's gonna change a lot of horses' lives as they kind of move forward with this stuff. So that makes me really happy to hear that you're doing that kind of work with them and showing them a different way, because I think, we sometimes in the horse industry can get really stuck in a rut. Like you said, messaging the show club or whatever it was, and then being like, no, we can't do Bitless. It can't be done, and hoping that there's some shifts and changes that happen there, and there's some openness to some different ways that are, going to be more positive for the horses involved. Yeah.
And Henrietta, actually, one of the older students I told you about, she's the one that's riding Bridleless. It was only a few months ago, her mum came to one of the lessons and she was a little bit flustered. And I was like, Claire, what's wrong? She goes, oh my God. She said, Hen was out the other day jumping her horse bridleless. She said she nearly gave me a heart attack. And little moments like that makes you really proud of them going out and giving it a go.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So wonderful. And so amazing to see more and more people, trying different things, and that I love hearing your story because it inspires me. Like, I'm like, I can do this. I've got a round yard. I can like actually make the steps here. And I think there's probably other listeners that are thinking the same thing, that this is a possibility for them as well. So it's really, really amazing to hear your story that way, and open up that potential for who knows out there in the world. Yeah, that's great. And what made you decide to don't go bareback? Was that just kind of another, like, you wanted to be closer to your horse? What made you decide to go that route?
It wasn't so much that with the bareback. I actually had a lot of trouble getting a saddle to fit him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we tried 5 or 6 different saddles, and some might work for a few months and then he'd get a sore back again. Like, looking back now, it was probably because I hadn't discovered the classical way of riding. But I got in the end buying new saddles and going to saddle fitters nearly every second, third week, that I just thought, bugger it, you know what? I will just ride him bareback. So the bareback actually started before the Bridleless started.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, and much cheaper option.
It's way cheaper. That's what I do too. And it's mainly out of laziness for me, to be honest. I have a very, very heavy Western saddle, and I'm like, I don't want to lug that on. So I just carry my bareback pad up to the paddock, and off we go. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
There is that aspect of it too.
It's pretty great. The lazy part of me is very, very content with that. And it does feel amazing. It feels amazing to connect with your horse on that level, like that kind of, it's quite intimate, really, to be so in touch with them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, really good.
That's awesome. And do you find, one of the things I know that people chat about is, bareback pads, not bareback pads, like are our sit bones impacting our horses in not great ways? What are your thoughts around that for, your relationship with Rocco and, your students? What have you kind of seen in your travels?
Yeah, so I have tried a couple of different bareback pads, obviously, because I don't want to make him sore either.
Mm-hmm.
I did try one only a few months ago, and it was quite thick, and I rode in it for probably 5 minutes, and I just felt like I was too far off his back, like I couldn't feel him anymore.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know if it's because I've been riding him for so long bareback now that it feels weird not to. So Belinda actually suggested to me, she said that she rides with, I don't know if it was a deer skin, I think she said.
It was a deer skin. She was talking about it when we were in the bleachers there. Yes. It sounded quite challenging too, because they tend to be quite slippery. Mm-hmm.
Especially when she said she nearly went off her horse's bottom when she went up a hill with it.
Yeah. I heard that story. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd give that a go because it sounds a lot more close contact. And, the challenge of trying to not slip off sounds great too.
Absolutely. You're upping the ante a little bit for sure. That's great. Well, I want to see the video of that for sure.
I'll definitely send one when I try and challenge the hill.
That is awesome. Yes, for sure. Well, that's really great, Tori. I'm loving what you're up to. I really want to just kind of condense your philosophy. How, is there anything you want to share about that in terms of like what you'd like people out there in the world to kind of know about horses or riding or anything like that? I know that's a kind of a broad question, but it sounds like you're really, on this path, and it's really an amazing one. Yeah. Anything you'd like to share?
Like there's a few things that I've found have helped me. One of the things is less is more. Like when you start thinking things and thinking about going and buying this and that and this and that to fix the problem, often the problem is, something that's quite simple. And the other thing that's helped me through was actually advice from my mum. And she said to me, it's not how quickly you achieve the goal, it's the journey and how you go about achieving the goal that counts. And that's stuck with me the whole way through. So I want my horse to look this way and be able to do this, and I want to be able to do this. Just enjoy getting there, I guess.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you two have a great time doing it.
Yeah, no, we definitely do.
That's awesome. I know that's been a big one for me, is just to be like, we're here to have fun, you know,
Yeah.
and kind of letting go a lot of those expectations and agendas around it and just enjoying each other. And it sounds like you and Rocco really have that going on.
Yeah, and that's the reason you ride in the first place. Like, you look back to the little kid who started riding, and that's the reason she rode, or I rode when I was little, because I like doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's somewhere along the lines we often kind of lose that, you know, that inspiration, don't we? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And get caught up in all the other stuff. So coming back to the real roots of why we're there in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really, you know, it sounds to me like it's really important to you to put the horse's well-being, you know, first as well.
Yeah. Like, if Rocco isn't sound, or for whatever reason is a little bit sore one day, I wouldn't push the training. I suppose, try and get to the bottom of whatever it is and wait till he's better. I don't see any point in trying to push him through just for my satisfaction.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Have you found that he likes to have any body work or different things to kind of keep him really happy and sound, or does the training do the trick for him?
No, so he's actually got a Bowen therapist.
Yeah.
And he has helped him so much. For anyone in Australia, her name is Jenny Callow. I'm sure she'll love the shout out. And she's absolutely amazing for him. And I've also been using red light, like the photonic torch therapy. Especially when he had that ligament issue there only a few months back, I was freaking out just a little bit, because the vet did tell me that sometimes they heal with the scar tissue and it's never as strong, and it could limit his career later on. And so that torch, it really helped, and he came good a lot quicker.
That's great. That's great. I love red light therapy, actually. It can be really, really helpful. So yeah, for shout out to that for that one as well. They're not that expensive, and they're very handy to have around, especially for soft tissue.
Yeah, and my sister's been using it too. She had a motorbike accident a few years ago, and she fractured a vertebrae in her neck, and she found that it's really helped her.
That's great.
Used her as the test dummy, actually. I thought, look, if it works on you, it must be working on my horse. Obviously, tell me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, it's so good to hear that you have like a, you know, great team, and it sounds like Rocco has a pretty incredible life, and you guys have a lot of fun together. That's really wonderful. Good. So before we're going to finish up in a little bit here, Tori, and I just wanted to check in with you, because I'm sure you have quite a few resources. I've noticed in Australia, it's like a mecca out there. When I was out there, there was just like so many clinics happening, and I wanted to go to everything, and there was just a lot of cool stuff going on. So do you have any, you know, favorite resources, books, people, you know, things that you love?
So I found myself watching, like when I first found out about the classical dressage, a lot of the online videos from straightness training. Yeah, I watched a lot of them. Obviously, Belinda, she is absolutely amazing. Belinda Bolsenbroek. Jose and Faye Mendez, they've been good mentors for me too, getting me going in the classical training and always being there and helping. I don't read a lot, so I can't really help you on the book front. But I do know Belinda had a really interesting book there with the last clinic. I think the English translation was collection or contortion. And there's some stuff in that.
Fantastic. So collection or contortion.
Yeah.
Perfect. And Belinda's focus, if I correct me if I'm wrong, is biomechanics as well as the art of academic riding, the classical training. Is that correct?
So her biomechanics links in, because obviously, you know, that affects how they work, the bones and the muscles.
Absolutely. I found it fascinating to kind of hear that dialogue as she was teaching and in talking about the thoracic sling and the movement of the ribs and, you know, the way that the horse was able to come under themselves and
Yeah.
work. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that sense of even watching some of those horses with, you know, a bit of pelvic instability. I remember there was one horse where there was a twisting in the hind quarters of the foot on the ground when there was, you know, instability and things. I found that really interesting.
Yeah. And when Belinda throws the terms about and you actually see it, like, it just makes you so hungry to learn more.
Absolutely. I was fascinated for sure. Yeah. I'm hoping to get her on here.
We should find a friend halfway through when you asked me the question about the reins.
I know, right? Yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Maybe she's listening in. Belinda, come on the podcast. Yeah. So, well, that is wonderful. So those are some great resources, and I'll make sure to put some names and. Do you have a website or a place where people can reach you as well?
Yeah, so I've got a page on Facebook that's the Bitless with every bit of control, and then it's just got the little dash with Tori Jeffress. One of my students, against my better judgment, also set me up an Instagram account because I mostly teach kids, and she pointed out that kids aren't on Facebook. So manages that. So there's an Instagram account too, and I do have a website. It's just under torijeffressequestrian.com.
Okay, and Jeffress is spelled, everybody, so it's Tori, Tori, and Jeffress, Jeffress. And what is your Instagram handle?
My Instagram, I'm pretty sure, is Bitless. Is it an underscore? I think that's what the kids use. Bitless _ Tori.
Nice. Bitless with Tori. That's great. So I'll have to start following you there. That's awesome. And for anybody who's interested in Tori's journey with Rocco and her students, that's a great place to follow along. And really appreciating you coming on, sharing your story and you know, your journey with Bitless. It's really fascinating stuff, and I'm sure I'm going to be doing much more of it as we enter the summer here in Canada. So thank you for the inspiration, Tori.
That's great. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been pretty awesome talking to you.
Yeah, ditto. So fun. Podcasts are fun, right? How is this your first podcast?
My first podcast was pretty good.
Excellent. I want to thank everyone out there for listening in today, taking the time out of their busy day to join us, and I hope and wish you all a wonderful day, and I hope that this has been enlightening and helpful for you and inspiring as it has been for me. We will be seeing you soon. I've got a lot more amazing people coming up, just like Tori. So keep tuned in, and we shall see you soon. Bye for now.